Hey everybody, some Gadget Guy here with another showdown fight for blood, pitting the LG G4 against the Galaxy Note 5. When the G4 came out, I wasn't actually going to do a Note 4 comparison, but it became one of the most requested videos that you guys asked me to shoot. So just to preempt some of that discussion, I'm gonna go ahead and do a rundown between the G4 and the Note 5. To get this out of the way though, I really feel that the Note targets a slightly different market than the G4 does. The G4 is more of an all-rounder smartphone designed to compete against phones like the Galaxy S6, but as the Note 5 has been streamlined down a little bit, I do think this is an interesting discussion and sort of differing viewpoints on how we get our work done during the day. Starting off with just hardware and design, the form factor difference between these two devices is not extreme. We've got a 5.5-inch diagonal display here and a 5.7 diagonal inch display here, and I think LG arrives at a slightly overall smaller form factor by making the phone a little bit thicker. Though the Note 5 does have one of the all-time best screen-to-body ratios on any smartphone ever. The biggest difference you're going to notice between these two devices are their displays. LG is using a new Quantum IPS LCD panel, while Samsung is using a further refined AMOLED. I genuinely prefer the contrast and color saturation on AMOLED displays. Even though they're not quite accurate, they're really juicy and fun and colorful and bright. So bright, in fact, that to match the exposure for my camera on these two phones, I am using less than half of the available user-controlled brightness on the Note 5 than I am using full brightness on the G4. And if you catch my review on the Note 5, you can see these two phones duking it out in a direct sun showdown where the Note 5 absolutely destroys the LG G4. The high brightness mode on this AMOLED display is formidable. Now, in general, I tend to prefer the layout and the UI on LG devices. As a personal preference, I think they're a little leaner, I think they're a little slimmer than TouchWiz on Galaxy phones, but the Note 5 has cleaned up a lot of the performance gremlins that we've seen with the Galaxy S6. So this is a much closer comparison when you're just sort of flicking through the UI or going through your home screens. You're pulling up your app drawers and doing silly things like that. It really bugs the crap out of me that the Note won't automatically alphabetize my apps, but there really isn't a distinct material advantage anymore in terms of UI performance. I am kind of coming around to on-screen controls though. I used to really like the capacitive and hardware key combination on Galaxy phones, but I've used enough on-screen control phones lately that I'm kind of preferring it, especially the ability to customize what I might have down here at the bottom. I really love that as a signature move on LG devices, giving me the ability to add a notification drop-down, which on a phone with a 5.5-inch screen is welcome, that you don't have to constantly juggle the device in your fingertips to reach the top or bottom. You can always just kind of plant your phone for the bottom control access and get your notification shade with a single shortcut. As the Note 5 is even taller in that regard, it means I have even just a little bit more juggling to do with my totally average, not tiny hobbit-like hands. Who am I kidding? If these things were hairier, I'd be living in the Shire. Now, while UI performance is pretty similar, gaming performance is a head and shoulders win for the Galaxy Note 5. The LG G4 is no slouch. The Qualcomm 808 here does a fine job of running games like Marvel Future Fight, slightly more graphics-intensive games. But moving over to the Note 4 was like moving from a nice console gaming experience to a high-end gaming PC experience. This thing is buttery smooth in even the most challenging software environments. Continuing on in overall build and ergonomics, I think the G4 fits in my hand a little bit nicer than the Note 5 does. Samsung's done a great job in rounding off corners and giving us this curved backplate, and it really does fit in my hand better than any other Note has in the past, but the rounded sides on the G4 and this leather backplate just feels nicer to me. And I prefer this material on my fingertips holding onto this phone far better than glass. I am starting to get a little wear on some of the corners of my leather backplate, but I can always pop it out, replace it with a plastic one, or get a different leather backplate. And this thing is absolutely not going to show fingerprints every single time I pick it up, which I cannot say about the Note 5, which shows fingerprints every single time I pick it up. In terms of speaker and audio playback, I'm going to give Samsung the nod here. Their speaker is pointing in the wrong direction, but it's pointing in less of the wrong direction than the G4 is. And I do think that the Note 5 actually arrives at slightly higher quality audio off of both the speaker and the headphone jack. One clear win for the Note 5 is actually audio over Bluetooth, where I get kind of a whine or a hiss on the G4, which I absolutely do not get on the Note 5. It's something I hope can be addressed in a future G4 update, but for now that means Samsung pulls ahead in terms of the audio race. And of course, these two cameras are very close competitors. It's really difficult to claim that one camera is a clear winner over the other. You really want to look at what styles of photography you're into. For myself personally, I'm really into candid photos when I'm hanging out with friends, and I love macro photography. getting up really nice and close to a subject. And for those styles of usage, I prefer the still photography experience on the G4, and I prefer the video experience on the Note 5 and the other Galaxy phones that have come out this year. Why yes, LG, I would like to save photos to my SD card. Oh, burn, Samsung! Yeah, I'm just messing, but we are going to talk about that too. Moving from the camera hardware to the camera apps, when we're talking about the manual mode or the professional mode on the Note 5, I definitely prefer the layout on the LG G4 over the layout on the Note 5. Now on the Galaxy S6 and the Note 5, this is a much cleaner settings menu layout and way to get into shortcuts for adjusting photography settings than we've seen on any other Samsung. But I really like how everything borders the sides of your composition window here on the LG. Your shortcuts down at the bottom, shutter on the right, your menus on the left, and this top row of information is invaluable when you're trying to make quick adjustments to a photo. Your white balance, your focusing system, your exposure value, your ISO, your shutter speed, it's all right there with a little histogram letting you know what your exposure value really looks like. And then when it comes to video, those experiences totally flip, with the G4 offering us UHD, 30 frame per second HD, 720p, I don't know why that's still even on phones anymore, and a decent slow motion mode, whereas Samsung is offering us UHD, Quad HD, if you want to shoot 2560 by 1440, is a nice little halfway point between UHD and full HD at 60 frames per second. And then I suppose if you want to drop even down into crazy low quality, for some reason on a Samsung you can still shoot 640 by 480 just VGA style standard definition video. Plus, when you shoot video on a Samsung, you also get exposure control via this handy little slider right there, which is something that I really hope LG brings to a future update on the G4. I'd love to be able to control the exposure value on my video just like I do on their still photography. Then when we get into productivity features like split screening apps, this is where Samsung's legacy, their history of building out large screen phones, absolutely shines. We get a couple things that we can flip back and forth between dual view on a G4, but there are so many more apps on the Note that take advantage of this split screen experience. I mean, really, there's no way to make this better until Google makes this a native feature of the Android operating system, which I hope they do soon because it's something I really enjoy using on Microsoft tablets. And while the G4 has quick access to some cool little applets like QMemo, you can quickly write on the screen and save it as a screenshot, you're just never going to be able to unseat the dominance of a beautifully fluid, pressure-sensitive stylus. You can just doodle all over the screen and you can see it even like acts like a pen as I move the stylus around and I dig really hard and I lightly wisp. S Pen is just such a formidable feature in this class of device. Though as a personal gripe, whenever I'm just kicking on the couch and I reach for a phone, it's a coin flip whether or not I'm reaching for the Note 5 because I'm playing Marvel Future Fight or some other really action-packed game, or if it's for the G4 because I want to change the channel on my TV or turn the volume up and down, and I can do that with the IR blaster on the G4, and I am kind of cranky about the fact that it's no longer in our beautiful Samsung Galaxy Notes anymore. And for the Note 5's dominance on productivity features, there are some lifestyle features that I absolutely love on the G4, not the least of which is the ability to add more storage. Both of these phones are going to give the user around 25 gigabytes of storage out of the box, but it ain't no thing to pop in a memory card, chicken wing. And I shoot photos in RAW and UHD video with abandon. I've even used this phone to back up my mirrorless camera out in the field. Memory cards are cheap, and that brings us to battery life, where my personal usage, where I'm constantly tagging these devices and have a lot of sort of mixed usage between social media and content creation and playing games and listening to audio and podcasts and doing turn-by-turn navigation pretty much every day, these two have actually performed pretty close. I know some people are having much better experiences using power saver features on the Galaxy Note 5 than on the LG G4. I sort of refuse to use power saver unless I absolutely need to save power. I want the full horsepower and torque of the processor whenever I turn my phone on. In aggressive mixed usage like that, the Note 5 really hasn't presented me much of an advantage over the G4. It does seem to charge a little bit faster. They both have some form of quick charge implementation, but I think Samsung's solution is a little bit quicker, and I absolutely adore having wireless charging built into the casing of this phone. But plenty of G4 owners will tell you it's pretty nice having a swappable battery and you can just go on about your day and not have to worry about finding an external battery or a case or some type of AC plug to plug your phone into. So getting down to brass tacks between these two phones, again, I don't think these are directly comparable devices in the markets that they target. But it's actually no surprise to me that the Samsung, for most of the bullet points that we can compare back and forth, is the better phone. But that doesn't mean that I love the LG G4 any less than when I did my 2-month follow-up review on it. Because here's one of the biggest aspects that we can compare between these two phones, in that the Note 5 is brand spanking new and is going to retail for around $700 to $750 depending on where you shop it. Whereas if you're a savvy shopper and you spend a little time searching around them interwebs, you can often find the LG G4 for well under $500. Do I feel that the G4 is $200 less phone than the Note 5? No, I really don't. I don't think the S Pen makes up that much ground on the G4. And that's where comparisons like this get really tricky, because this is not an oranges to oranges showdown. As it stands right now for phones released this year, I gotta give the nod to the Note 5 for being one of the better productivity devices on the market, and I gotta give the G4 the nod for being one of the better all-rounder flagship smartphones on the market. But of course, compromise like that isn't very interesting, and I wanna hear from you. Let's see if we can get some debate started. We're talking about high-end flagship smartphones. Which one would get your money if you were shopping one today? Are you more apt to go with the metal and glass gaming prowess of the Note 5? Or are you more interested in the storage versatility and lifestyle features like the IR blaster on the LG G4? Drop me some comments down below this video, guys, because those are the discussions that I like getting into. As always, folks, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more rambling comparisons like these, and I would not be able to continue producing on this channel if you all weren't out there supporting it, either by hitting the fan funding, shopping via my Amazon affiliate links, or even just by sharing my videos on your favorite social sites like Google+ and Reddit and the Twitter and the Facebook. So please keep bringing more cool people to the party. Hit that thumbs up button, and I will catch you all on the next comparison.